You guys want to hear from Jeff? Jeff's calling me right now. Hey, Jeff, you're on speakerphone with AUREA. How you doing, bro?
What?
I'm on stage, Jeff. I'm really busy right now. What's going on?
I just wanted to let you know at the end of that call that Sayer's going to introduce Joelle and Leah.
Hey, just so you all know, Sarah's going to introduce Joelle and Leah. I want you guys to know that. I got it, bro. We're good. All right, Jim Gale is coming up here next. Jokes aside, this is a very, very, very valuable human being. We all deal with a lot of food issues. Let's just say that. This man has a lot of food solutions. There's food scarcity. Food deserts are huge problems. This man has some extraordinary solutions that can fix those problems and a lot of other problems that result from them. And very, very happy to introduce this man to you all, Mr. Jim Gale. Put your hands together for a very, very interesting human being.
Thank you so much, brother. My friends, over the next 30, 35 minutes, I'm going to share in actionable details the solution to all of the world's biggest problems. And this solution does not contradict. In fact, it goes along with the solutions we've already heard. But this is one that you can all take, along with breathing, along with all the things we've learned. You can take it right today or tomorrow. The solution, we're going to play a little video here. If you could cue up the first video. It's magic what's happening, my friends. It's a beautiful, magical world. What do you want to do with this amazing property?
I'll show you.
Okay.
Let's go.
Awesome.
My name is Jim Gale, and for the past 14 years, I've been on a mission to show people how easy it is to grow food instead of lawns.
Well, it's a little bit whiny.
What? Yeah. Seeds of life right here.
Magic beans.
Magic beans that turn into life. I mean, how much more magical can you get? Look at that. This is like treasure hunting.
Holy snaps.
Oh, the flavor comes on. My whole mouth is alive.
I closed my eyes so many times and I was like imagining the grapes here, and now I don't have to close my eyes because there are grapes here. We're in a time in a culture in which people feel so disconnected.
Yeah.
And they want to feel like you have place in the world.
Gosh, that's powerful.
And now this bat box has a place.
Yes, it does.
In the last 2 years, more people have chosen to grow food at home than any time in history.
You know, people say that the Garden of Eden is a utopic fantasy when it's the next logical step.
So if you want more abundance, more flavor, more freedom, more energy, join me in the land of plenty.
This is a wild hibiscus. You can actually eat.
Nice.
You've been eating all the food. You got to share.
Share, buddy. And check out that leaf. Isn't that amazing?
I mean, I was floating 20 feet off the ground my whole life. I feel like I have something to actually contribute that is not just ego or...
Right. So would you go back?
I can't go back.
It was about 2 years ago. I was at the end of my rope. I learned what was going on in the world back in 2007. I was living in Costa Rica. I had just sold a mortgage company that did about $1.3 billion in sales in 3.5 years, lived on a boat for a year, and then I was looking for my next adventure. I realized at that time that the money that had been my previous goal was not the answer to the void that I had felt in my body. And for those of you who have earned a lot of money, you've felt this too. What Adrian just said there, I think, is very unique in that he was in Hollywood. He said, I can't go back because this idea that we reach out for the feeling of connection, that's a false narrative. Paul Chek spoke that very well. And I heard the term inner sense or inner stand. I love that word, inner stand. My friends, Bill Mollison, after going through and learning what was going on with the deep state and the governmentes around the world, after learning about the poison producers and the poisons in the world, I read Bill Mollison's quote. He said, though the problems of our world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple. There are several quotes that have blown my mind, that have changed my life radically. Another one is from a guy who studied the most influential, successful manifestors in the history of our world. His name is Napoleon Hill. Most of you have heard of Think and Grow Rich. After he studied these amazing people for a lifetime, he deduced that whatever the mind of man or woman can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Holy shit. That's a powerful statement. Whatever my mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Well, then what can I conceive? What can I believe? And the obsessions are often based in scarcity. After I had my first two daughters, Mia and Selah, who I loved, you know, when you have kids, there's something more important than yourself. I had my first two daughters, and at the same time, I learned that the way we are poisoning and destroying our Earth's resources is radically unsustainable. All unsustainable systems fail. That's the nature of the word. And I also learned who the poison producers were. I also learned, thanks to Bill Mollison, that there are solutions. So I dove in. I became obsessed with the solution. About 2 years ago, I changed that obsession after listening to Alan Watts into a joyful obsession. That little tweak, that energetic shift made all the difference because I no longer came to this obsession through scarcity, through worry, through fear, through lack, because we are God playing a divine game with ourselves. I understood that knowledge intensely. And then I said, okay, I like this idea that we're playing a game. You know, one culture calls it Leela, the divine game. It's like a puzzle to me. And how do we put all the pieces of the puzzle together in a way that inspires and empowers, in a way that catalyzes a shift in consciousness, a raise in awareness that leads to mass adoption of the most logical, loving, wonderful, joyful, beneficial, healthy thing we could ever do for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, and for our world. There are 44 million acres of lawn in the United States alone. The lawn takes more poisons, more chemicals, more human resources than any other crop, and it does not provide food, not for humans anyway. When we transition 50% of our lawns at corporations, at schools, at churches. I love the schools one. I love them all. In our backyards, when we transition 50% of our lawns into regenerative, edible landscapes, landscapes that take less maintenance than a lawn. The type of food growing that I'm talking about is perennial edible landscapes. Now, there is a very huge need. Thank you, my brother. There's a huge need for also annual crops right now. Because, my friends, the food supply chain is collapsing by design. This is a control grid shutdown that's happening as we speak. I have a very well-studied biblical friend who has studied for 50 years the Bible. He said, Jim, you cannot predict the end times. No, I'm not predicting the end times. I'm telling you, to my friend, that the beginning times are right here, right now. You can look around and you can see it everywhere if you open your eyes to it. So, when we inspire this shift into the most healthy thing we could do by planting these annuals and perennials, I'll give you an example. A macadamia nut tree, or an apple tree, or a pear, or a peach, or a plum takes the same amount of maintenance as the oak tree that's in your yard right now. Who grows the tree? I don't grow the tree. Nature, God, source. The tree grows itself. When we design and install these landscapes. The magic, the wisdom, the design of us as God playing this divine game does all the work for us. As I walk down the street, I'm looking at all these plants right here. All of those plants could be edibles. Now, Henry Kissinger said over 50 years ago, if you want to control nations, control oil. If you want to control people, control food. And if you want to control the world's currency. What is the currency? It's the representation of the value that humans have brought to this planet, to our world. And they control all of those things. There is a they. If you want to know, Dr. David Martin, a friend of mine, he says who they are. Right? The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the families who have always been in charge of these systems and who have all these counsels on how to control the mind of the people. In permaculture, we like to turn the problem into the solution. The problem is governmente. The problem is our belief in authority. Larkin Rose pointed this out in his book, The Most Dangerous Superstition, is our giving up our ability to be the authors of our own stories. Instead, we rely on his story, which is a fucking lie, my friends. You know, I was on a class with James Corbett, the Corbett Report, and it was a private class about mass media. Do you know that J.P. Morgan and his crew, which are all the same families, did a commission, and they found out which newspapers were the most influential in the United States? This is 100 and some years ago. They bought them all. They bought all of the most influential newspapers. Why? To control the narrative. This is 1984, which was published in 1948, was the truth at the time, and that's what we're just becoming aware of. You know, and by the way, we talk about choice a lot. This idea that choice is a lie. And without the awareness of choice. So the word choice implies that people have a choice. When they're programmed, when they're not clear of the mind, then they are not aware of the choice, which means they don't have a choice. So what's my joyful duty? And our joyful duties as leaders, we are all leaders. We are in the most incredible time in the history of humanity. We get to lead the way into the future, a future of radical, joyful abundance, the golden age that is in us always. This is a holographic fractal universe. Everything is always here, always. So now we are tapping into it. You know, the synchronicities. Aren't you amazed at how the synchronicities, we were just talking about that. All of a sudden, you're seeing shit all over the place. You're like, that fits there, and that fits there. And you hear about a book from 5 different people in the same fucking week, and you're like, what the fuck? I never heard. It's mind-blowing what's happening. The little trailer that you just seen, right? I reached out to Del Bigtree. Del Bigtree was one of my heroes. I love the courage of this man. I wrote him a note, basically a letter. I said, Del, I've got the solution. The solution is not a hypothetical solution. This solution has been proven all over the world. It's called permaculture. And we have a way to scale this solution to humanity. And Del read it, and he goes, oh, my God. Then on April, Earth Day last year, the Creating Abundance in Your Backyard came out. A month later, I get a call from my favorite TV show of all time, at least for 15 years of my life, The Crocodile Hunter. When Steve Irwin died, I cried. The Crocodile Hunter producer calls me up and says, Jim, we would like to do a show featuring you and your vision for society. I'm like, holy shit, that's perfect. Because whatever my mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And I know that we are going to change the world. As a result of my actions, collaborating with your actions, we are going to literally bring about the golden age, starting in our hearts and in our minds. What's up, brother? And it's nonstop benefits and joy and love in every way. So then, 2 days after the producer of The Crocodile Hunter, my favorite show, I get a call from Adrian from Entourage. The next decade of my life, he was my favorite actor for like 5 years. So how does that statistically make sense? It doesn't. This is not a Newtonian physics world. Of course, there's Newtonian physics, but there's also so much bigger than that, which all of us are starting to experience, right? On a more and more basis, the more we tap in. If mind control, governmente, is the problem, what's the opposite of governmente? It's enlightenment. Who controls the keys to enlightenment? Nobody but you. That's the big lie. There's so many foundational lies in our world. Enlightenment is simply having a clear mind, a mind that's free of programs. So, how do we do that? Breath work. Medicine work. I've spent so much time. It's a lifetime pursuit, enlightenment. And it's not something you attain and go, oh, good, I'm done. No, it's a fun process of learning and always loving. I love when I find out that I'm wrong about something. I search for areas and I ask the question quite often, what am I missing here? I'll give you an idea on that. I was watching a Disney show with my 3-year-old daughter, Sophia, not too long ago. And I know what Disney is. I know that they're a mind control evil, which I like playing with words. Evil is live backwards, right? And you've got the devil, which is live backwards, and then you've got AI, and I think it's all related. Maybe it's all a coincidence. But anyway, I started to formulate a question in my mind. The question was, what programs, what negative stuff, and before I could even conceptualize the question, it was radically obvious. Mickey was celebrating his birthday, and he was having cake and hot dogs, right? He wasn't having raspberries and blueberries and blackberries and bananas and apples and all this wonderful stuff. He was having poisons for his birthday. So my little girl says, Dad, I want some cake, you know? Interesting how that goes. They're everywhere when you start backing up and looking and asking the question, where is the scam here? There's no end to the layers until we go deep inside. And then it all becomes crystal clear. And then ask yourself, where am I still being deceived? And how can I turn that problem into the solution? And it's such a beautiful process of awakening. So after this obsession turned to joyful obsession, we launched our company thanks to the help of Del Bigtree. We are now helping people grow food all over the world. We are in 15 countries and almost every U.S. state. We've got one of the fastest growing cooperatives in the world. It's a cooperative. I actually spent $250,000 getting a franchise document ready. The franchise document was 330 pages. It made me sick to my stomach. I threw the pile of shit in the trash. We created a document that's 3-4 pages long, and it's based on the voluntary exchange of value. We have no patents, we have no non-competes, we have no NDAs, none of that BS. We are about let's show the world, let's inspire and empower the world to grow food instead of lawns. When you walk outside into a food forest in your backyard, you feel it. It is such a and then the butterfly goes by, and then another butterfly goes by, and then you are all of a sudden connected with everything living in your yard. You become part of the energy, the creation, the manifestation of all that is wonderful and good. So can we pull up the Freedom Farm Academy, Growing Freedom. Now, here's where it gets really fun. It's an evolutionary process that's never ending. So we are also building an off-grid community called Galt's Landing in St. Cloud, Florida. If anybody wants to come visit, I love showing Galt's Landing because when people hear about growing food, I have a brown thumb, I have a black thumb, I have a green thumb, or I don't know how, I don't have the time, I don't have the space, I don't have the knowledge, all this BS, belief systems, bad science, and bullshit about what it takes to actually grow food. You don't have to grow anything. What you get to do, though, is start building soil, and that's where we can help. There are many, many people around the world who can help. There's somebody in every community that wants to help. So what we did at Galt's Landing what I realized just about 3 months ago is when anybody comes there, they get tears in their eyes. They're walking through a food forest. We've got one that we planted 9 months ago, one that we planted about 13 months ago, and one that we got in the ground about 18 months ago. It's like walking through time. And our base for this food forest is Florida sand. I got a buddy up in northern Minnesota who has 300 different species of edible and medicinal plants growing in his yard in northern Minnesota. Such a bountiful harvest that in 2-3 months of the year, they can harvest enough food to live on. And here's what's magical about a food forest. Millions of things. I said, Chad, what would happen if you left your food forest, if you just left it for 10 years or 30 years? And he said, Jim, I've went out into the forest around my food forest, and he said the birds and the wind and the rain, the animals are bringing the seeds out into the forest. A food forest is expansive. The amount of energy that has went into creating this insane world, this insane ornamental landscape world is absolutely, I like to use the term evil, and I don't use that in the way that you might think. It's just the opposite of live. It's a death system, right? And I don't believe in death anyway either, for that matter. But there is a point where when we recognize that contrast and we start using those resources wisely, it's infinite and it's expansive. The future that I know is coming, it's not coming, it's happening as we speak at an exponential rate. During the apocalypse, thank God for the lifting of the veil. Thank God for the great awakening, right? And be thankful, because being thankful then is part of it. And here's another thing. I just had a doctor here yesterday who doesn't want to be named because he spent time in jail by telling the truth against the system. And he said, Jim, you got to be really careful. And I could see and feel the fear in this amazing fellow who had the courage to go after them. He said, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. And I said, thank you for your suggestion. Here's what I know deep down in my soul to be true. You've heard the thing where the vampire needs to be invited into the home. Fear is the open doorway. Fear is the ultimate control mechanism of the slave master. The first thing we get to do, the foundation of the freedom starting in here, is to let go of the fear and transmute that fear, which is an energy form. And how do we do that? We do that by focusing on service. In fact, this is just amazing to me. John Nash, have you ever heard of the Nash equilibrium? So there was an amazing show called A Beautiful Mind. In fact, after I looked at it again, the show was a complete scam. It's a Hollywood Nobel Prize winning show. Russell Crowe played John Nash. Now, previous to John Nash, this is so relevant. There was a guy named, I think it was Adam Smith. He was the father of economic theory in the world. And his theory was if everybody in an economic system does what's best for themselves, then you'll have a strong economy. John Nash said, mathematically, he was a math guy, he said, and he intended to win the Nobel Prize, which he did. He said, he upgraded that theory. He said, if everybody in an economic system does what's best for themselves and others, boom, you'll have even a stronger economy and everybody will benefit. The person, most of all, is the person that's serving the most. In a voluntarious system where you've got the voluntary exchange of value, the people who serve the most receive the most. In fact, you just mentioned that the other day. I thought that was so beautiful, this fellow in the back there. There's so many relationships that we are creating. The people in this room have it all. I don't know where my time is, but can we start running through the deck a little bit? Oh, good. Okay. So then at Galt's Landing, we have bees. We have off-grid everything. We're building a completely off-grid luxury community. People ask us what our HOA dues are. I go, dues? We don't use our land as a liability. Our land is our greatest asset after our energy. Our land is our next most important asset. So we share the profits of our land. every community in the world could share the profits of the value they create on their land. This HOA bullshit, this is one of the first things that, and here's the thing too, we don't force the change, we don't mandate the change, we inspire the change by showing, by demonstrating what's possible. So, we already know this. Let's go to the next slide. So the opportunities, which this is the time of the greatest opportunity in the history of humanity, because we've come, the pendulum has swung so far to the ridiculous, and it's coming back, and it's gaining speed. So what I learned at Galt's Landing, by combining all of the elements of a sustainable life, is when people see it, they're blown away. So with that, we've got food forest abundance. We have 43 incredible designers, and we'll have 400 in a year from now, that design using permaculture principles, landscapes that are yield producing with very low maintenance. We've got 140 cooperative partners around the world. And then we just added the Freedom Farm Academy. A Freedom Farm Academy takes all of these amazing elements and stacks the functions. So we've got local service, permaculture design and installation, local education, local supply, and local inspiration. If I had to pick one that was the most important, it's local inspiration. When people experience what's possible, it blows their paradigm away, because they all of a sudden realize, I can do this. Not only can I do this, I have to do this because it's going to be good in every way. Okay, next slide, please. A solution growing in your community. Get educated, get equipped, get empowered. My friends, I don't believe in fear. It's an absolute illusion. I believe in awareness. The food supply chains are coming down now. It's not going to happen. It's happening now. Be prepared in several ways. Have enough food, water, and a way to get energy, especially if you live in a cold place. Secure yourself while this process, while this transition is happening. It's really, I believe, important. It's important to me, and that's why we've got all the systems in place, including number one is the food, water, and energy. And right along with that, get with your community. Find out who in your local area, around your neighborhood, is also aware and has, first they're aware. That's number one. And then they have the resources or abilities to help, because when the systems go down, and they very much could in the next, from now till Christmas, you want to have that community. It's of the utmost importance. All right, next slide, please. So this is our Freedom Farm Academy on a half of an acre. And I believe in regenerative capitalism. Capitalism is, again, the voluntary exchange of value. So when we demonstrate what is possible and invite people to come experience it, the potential for earning money by creating value is absolutely limitless. And we've got people that are doing this that aren't even intending on having a business. Why? Because everything in here is an asset that goes up in value. A fruit tree, like this plant here, this plant can be propagated into 1,000 more plants within 12 months. And you get these little potatoes. Like, nature is mind-blowingly abundant. So to follow nature, to mimic and model, and then design nature. In fact, a real quick antidote. In soil, there's seeds. There's thousands of seeds in a big handful of soil. And if the soil is compact, then a seed will be triggered to germinate that creates it unpacks the soil. Strong roots will go down, and it'll create aeration and nutrient pathways, right? If the soil is really loose and easily blown, then a seed will germinate that actually brings the soil together and creates a mesh network. So within the natural design, when we expose and take out the poisons, and I do want to say one thing real quick. So this is the business model that is going global in a hurry. We are now, we're working with world-class investors and people, we're creating funds where people can put their fiat into these Freedom Farm Academies. Fiat is going down by design, and food is going up. It's the most logical investment, building food-producing land and off-grid homesteads. If anybody wants to live this life and turn it into an incredible opportunity to serve and to get paid for serving, this is it. And also, I got a lot of criticism lately from some people because I often go really direct at the problem. BlackRock. Right? BlackRock is not just the name of that entity, it's the intention of that entity in my belief system. BlackRock did $21 trillion last year. 21 trillion. 5% of that, $1 trillion, would create 1 million Freedom Farm Academies around the world that are worth $1 million each. That's, with fewer than 10,000 cities in the world, that's 100 Freedom Farm Academies, which are also nurseries and education and demonstration sites. In fact, thanks to the breathwork earlier today, we are going to integrate the breathwork and all sorts of teaching opportunities into the Freedom Farm Academy, which is meant to demonstrate freedom on every level, heart and mind and spirit and body. So the criticism I got was, I'm reaching out to BlackRock, which is run by a computer, by the way, called Aladdin. I think that's pretty amazing. A computer runs the financial system of our world, did $21 trillion. It's the biggest parasite in the world, which does not produce any value. Instead, it sucks by knowing how to bet in the market at the right time. That's a parasite. So the people of BlackRock, they're people. They can be inspired. The people in the military, they're people. They can be inspired. The people in the police force are people who can be inspired. So our job is not to shame or humiliate or do anything negative, to cast more shame on people who, a lot of them, are already suffering because they know that they're not leading a path that provides value to society. So my suggestion to the people of BlackRock and to the people of the services and of the police force and these different entities, which will either be used to create more slavery or to free us, is to show them another way. We talk about power. Power is in the creation of life, not in the destruction of life. So if these people want power, let's serve that need by showing them how they can gain more power by helping to build life. Does that make sense, my friends? All right, love and have an awesome day. And grow some food.